Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
The German Chancellor Angela Merkel today insisted there would be no change in the country's willingness to take in refugees after the recent terror attacks. She interrupted her summer holiday to return to Berlin and announced new measures to improve security, including deciphering web chatter and tackling internet arms sales. But despite the fact that the two attacks in Bavaria were carried out by asylum seekers who'd both had claimed allegiance to IS, she was adamant that Germany would stick to its principles in giving shelter to the deserving. But how are Germans feeling on the ground? Gabriel Gatehouse went to Bavaria to find out. Here's his report.
Munich train station was the birthplace of Willkommenskultur. A year ago, while the rest of Europe threw up fences, Germans welcomed refugees here in their hundreds of thousands. Now this country is taking a hard look at its open border policy. After 4 attacks in the space of a week, 3 of them carried out by those who sought refuge here. In the little Bavarian town of Ansbach on Sunday, a suicide bombing. It wasn't the deadliest of the attacks, but it was the one with the most chilling implications for a country struggling not to give in to fear.
The bomber was trying to get through this archway here because on the other side there was a concert going on. There were 2,500 people here, but he didn't have a ticket. Now, witnesses say they saw him pacing up and down here, getting a bit nervous, and in the end, he came over to this terrace here, and that's where he detonated his bomb.
The attacker was the man on the left in the red shirt, Mohammed Dalil, a 27-year-old Syrian who arrived in Germany 2 years ago via Bulgaria. In 2013, he was interviewed on Bulgarian TV talking about being injured in Aleppo. He was due to be deported from Germany back to Bulgaria. Before he blew himself up, he pledged allegiance to Islamic State. He lived in this hostel in Ansbach. Neighbours said he was friendly but quite isolated. Annette and Gabriella live on the same street. They got to know Dalil quite well through their voluntary work with refugees.
No, in October he had an injured arm and he had an operation, and I went up there and fed him. And then I haven't seen him for many weeks, and I asked Abdul Rashid, where is he? And he said he's in his room. He has a laptop now and he doesn't come out of his room that much anymore.
Did you get the impression that he was particularly religious?
No, not at all.
And why do you say that? You say that very firmly. Why are you so sure?
Because I know he didn't do Ramadan. We talked about that, and I also know that he...
You talked about that. He said, I don't do Ramadan.
Yes. He was not a soldier for IS, not at all. Never.
Das ist eine Ausrede.
Yeah, it's
An excuse. Yeah.
A year ago, an army of Annette's and Gabriellas came together in an extraordinary display of hospitality. But for these two, that solidarity has been shattered.
Personally, I just told my friend, everybody needs to go back home. I'm not willing to go out of my way and help, because I'm afraid that you're friendly and actually you turn out to be totally different.
And did that change for you on Sunday?
On Sunday.
Yeah.
Just around the corner, we met a man who summed up how many people feel.
People will be more careful, but...
Because there was this Willkommenskultur, this welcoming...
No, forget about it. Willkommenskultur, what is this?
All of last week's attacks took place in southern Germany. An axe-wielding teenager on a train, a mass shooting in a shopping centre, a machete attack near a restaurant, as well as Sunday's suicide bombing. More than 1 million refugees have come to Germany since the beginning of last year, the majority of them through Bavaria. Now there's talk of closing the borders, even sending people back.
They are afraid of us, so their behavior has changed.
And that's changed since the attacks of the past week?
Yeah.
We don't yet know the extent of the impact of all of this on German public opinion, but certainly the kind of language we're hearing today is very different from what people were saying a year ago last summer at the height of Willkommenskultur. Even before these attacks, support for Angela Merkel's refugee policy was dwindling, and now she's under intense political pressure from her own coalition partners.
The CSU, the centre-right party that dominates politics in Bavaria, today said refugees who couldn't prove their identity should be detained or turned back. Angela Merkel said she would order extra security measures, but on her refugee policy, she's holding firm.
Für mich ist klar, wir bleiben dabei bei unseren Grundsätzen.
For me, it's clear that we will stick to our principles. And those principles mean we give those who are politically persecuted asylum. And we give protection to those fleeing war and displacement in accordance with the Geneva Conventions.
In Ansbach, investigators are trying to work out whether Mohammed Dalil was a member of Islamic State from the beginning, or whether his Pledge of Allegiance was a more recent development. The German authorities say Dalil was suffering from mental illness, that he'd twice tried to commit suicide, and that his psychological treatment had been terminated. Jürgen Sawyer, a psychotherapist who works with asylum seekers, says many are traumatized and that bureaucratic hurdles often mean they can't get the help they need.
We know all these people who went to the hospital because they wanted to commit suicide. So they get for 1-2 weeks of support, and then they are sent again in the life without support. So it might be really a relationship between this lack of treatment and these crimes now.
In other words, there may be others out there. Many are now asking an uncomfortable question. Has the open border policy made Germans vulnerable? In Ansbach, the local priest was having dinner with his family when he heard the bomb go off just outside his church.
Was da passiert ist jetzt innerhalb einer Woche.
What happened here in the past week, of course, it's doing something to us. But if we split, if we turn against each other, if we reject people who are in need, then something really will have broken.
And yet, the week's deadliest attack had nothing to do with refugees. Munich's Muslim community held prayers at the site of Friday's attack, when a German-Iranian teenager with a history of depression opened fire in a shopping centre. He killed 10 people, including himself. He shouted anti-foreigner slogans and followed the Norwegian mass murderer Anders Breivik. Had he been white, this would have been interpreted as a far-right attack. But his heritage means the public gaze is directed back to the issue of immigration. As the spectre of terrorism casts its shadow deeper into Europe, these are fearful and confusing times for Germany.
Gabriel Gatehouse in Germany. Well, joining me now from Cologne is German MP Norbert Spinnrath, European Affairs spokesman for the SPD party, who are in coalition with Angela Merkel's CDU-CSU. Good evening, Mr. Spinnrath. First of all...
Good evening from Cologne.
Good evening. A survey today by EMNID said the majority, 57%, believe that Angela Merkel's refugee policy had failed.
I do not think that it failed. The Social Democratic Party, as a coalition partner of Chancellor Merkel, stays to her policy for refugees. I think there is no link from the refugees to the attacks of the last days. We saw a mass murder, a mass shooting without any link to terrorist attacks. We saw a refugee who arrived 2 years ago in Germany. He was ill. He had depressions. He was brain sick. I think that was not a normal terrorist attack. I think that the people know that if two refugees are involved in such attacks, when you have 2 million refugees in the last 18 months, it is not to be called a link between those.
But we heard from people in the film there who were very welcoming originally, feeling now that they were going to pull back. And one MP in Angela Merkel's own party has said now that it's all very well to have the welcome culture, but we need the farewell culture now, where failed asylum seekers are moved out the country more quickly. Do you agree with that?
I think we have to observe very serious this group. We have to look for it. But we have also to see the 99% of very normal people. They need protection. They came to us to look for protection. They are happy that they can be here, far away from their homeland, where is war or other things. And I think we have to look very strong on those that they are failing in their role, and we have to take measures, and we did a lot, and we have a large catalogue what we want to do in the future
to increase security. Now, I wonder if you think that what's happening to Germany is quite different from what's happening to France. Now, you know that Manuel Valls, the French Prime Minister, has said that perhaps people are going just to have to learn to live with the terror threat. Is that the same for Germany?
No, we do not want to live with a terrorist rate. We want to make sure our people, our inhabitants, that they are secure in Germany, and that the police administration, the police forces, and other administrations will do anything to give them security.
So I wonder. Sorry to interrupt.
In the last years.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wonder then if you think that there are any validity in the calls that some people are making in Germany for a pause, you know, just to calm things down, rethink, sort out security a little bit better, and then restart allowing refugees in. What do you think about that possibility?
I think the most of the people, and I spoke to a lot of them, the most of the people say it is a serious thing, but we have to deal with it. We have to operate a lot of measures, do anything for my security. That says the people, but the people are not in that fear that a few politicians want to mention.
Mr. Spindler, thank you very much indeed.